You are listening to Bedtime Dreamy Tales. Share and subscribe our channel. Story title: Hermod and Hadvor. Once upon a time, in a kingdom nestled between rolling hills and crystal-clear rivers, there lived a king and a queen who ruled with kindness and wisdom. They had one precious daughter, Princess Hadvor, who was as fair and beautiful as the dawn, and being an only child, she was heir to the kingdom. The royal couple also cared for a foster son named Hermod, a handsome and clever boy who grew up alongside Hadvor. From their early years, Hermod and Hadvor were inseparable. They spent their days exploring the palace gardens, riding horses, and engaging in lessons of history, art, and diplomacy. Their bond grew so strong that they secretly pledged their hearts to each other, knowing that one day they wished to marry. As time went on, the queen fell gravely ill. Sensing her end was near, she called the king to her bedside. "My dear husband," she whispered, "if you ever marry again after I'm gone, promise me you will take no other wife than the Queen of Hetland the Good." The king, heartbroken, gave his word. Soon after, the queen passed away, leaving the king, Hadvor, and Hermod in deep sorrow. Years passed, and the king, weary of solitude, decided to seek out the Queen of Hetland the Good. He fitted out his grand ship and sailed across the sea. However, a dense fog descended, causing him to lose his way. After much struggle, he stumbled upon an unfamiliar land. Wandering into a mystical forest, the king heard enchanting harp music. Following the sound, he reached a clearing where three women sat. The eldest, seated on a golden chair, played the harp mournfully. Beside her sat a younger woman, and standing by them was a maid in a green cloak. The king introduced himself, explaining his quest to find the Queen of Hetland the Good. The eldest woman revealed she was the very queen he sought, and the other two were her daughter and maid. Overjoyed, the king proposed marriage, which the queen gladly accepted. They returned to the king's kingdom, and a grand feast was held to celebrate their union. As the days turned into weeks, Hermod and Hadvor took little notice of the new queen and her daughter. However, Hadvor grew close to the queen's maid, Olaf, who often visited her in her castle. The king, soon called to war, left his kingdom in the care of the new queen. With the king away, the queen approached Hermod, demanding he marry her daughter. Hermod refused, professing his love for Hadvor. Furious, the queen revealed her true nature as a witch. She cursed Hermod to become a lion by day and a man by night on a deserted island. He would only be freed if Hadvor burned his lion's skin. In a final act of defiance, Hermod cursed the queen and her daughter to become a rat and a mouse, destined to fight each other until he returned to slay them. Then Hermod vanished, and despite the queen's efforts, he could not be found. Olaf, loyal to Hadvor, revealed the queen's dark magic and Hermod's fate. She warned Hadvor that the queen planned to marry her to a three-headed giant from the Underworld. The giant, disguised as a prince, would come up through the castle floor to claim her. Olaf advised Hadvor to prepare boiling pitch to thwart him. The king returned from his campaign, troubled by Hermod's disappearance. The queen's comfort eased his worries. Meanwhile, Hadvor awaited the giant's arrival. One night, a rumbling shook the castle, and the floor began to open. Hadvor and her maids poured the blazing pitch into the gap, silencing the noise. The next morning, the queen found her brother, the giant, dead at the palace gate. Using her magic, she transformed his body into that of a beautiful prince and accused Hadvor of murder. The king, believing the queen's lies, allowed her to decide Hadvor's punishment. She decreed that Hadvor be buried alive with her brother in a grave mound. Olaf, always vigilant, advised Hadvor on how to survive. She provided Hadvor with a cloak and instructions to demand information about Hermod from the giant's ghost. In the mound, the giant revealed Hermod's location, and Hadvor cut the skin from his feet to make magical shoes. Escaping as planned, she set out to find Hermod. Hadvor's magical shoes carried her across the sea to the island where Hermod was trapped. Climbing the cliffs with the help of a mysterious rope and guided by a magical clue, she found Hermod's cave. She crept in and burned the lion's skin, freeing Hermod from his curse. Reunited, Hermod and Hadvor sought help from a friendly witch on the island. She lent them a boat, warning of the giant-turned whale who would attack them. As they sailed, the whale approached, but the witch's magic brought forth a battle with 15 smaller whales. The sea turned red with blood, but Hermod and Hadvor reached the mainland safely. Back in the kingdom, the king despaired over the disappearance of the queen and her daughter, and the constant fighting of a rat and a mouse in his hall. Hermod returned, slaying the rodents with his sword, revealing them to be the wicked witches. Hermod recounted their adventure to the king, who joyfully granted him Hadvor's hand in marriage and the kingdom's throne. Hermod and Hadvor ruled wisely and happily, while Olaf married a nobleman and lived a life of peace. And so, the kingdom prospered under the reign of the brave Hermod and the wise Hadvor, and their story was told for generations, a tale of love, courage, and triumph over dark magic. If you like this story, please give this video a like. For more stories, go to bedtimedreamytales.com. See you in the next story.